Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Chats with David and Fez. And today we're here with Senior Manager at Icon Foundation. It is Cyrus. Cyrus, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Thank you for showing up. Fez, how are you?
I'm great, man. I'm great. Just loving the intro. Keep it up, man.
Thank you.
Killing it.
Thank you. We're going to chat with Cyrus today about dev relations in the Icon ecosystem. Developer relations is a big topic. And we're just going to ask questions, I suppose, about what's going on, what's been going on, what we've been hearing, what we're seeing. And shouldn't take too long, actually. I don't know if we want to dive right in. I don't know, Cyrus, if you want to add in anything at the beginning to the introduction that I gave, or are you like, yeah, just fire the questions at me?
No, I mean, that was all great. I'm good with questions.
Good. Okay, well, first question. Bug bounties. We've read about the Immunefi bug bounties that are live for Icon. So if there's, what do you call them, white hat developers who find code issues, they can report them and apply for bug bounties. So that's been live for a couple of months now. We've been seeing that get named every now and then. Is that still going strong? Are we finding vulnerabilities? Is stuff being reported on that? Or is it very quiet?
Yeah, it's actually, I think after the exploit with Ohm, we saw a spike in reports briefly. In general, it's kind of tapered off. We started the program, I want to say back in November of last year, something like that. And we do still get reports, and we do take a look at the ones that come in, and yeah, it's still going pretty strong.
Yeah.
Overall.
Anything extra interesting coming in, or is it stuff that's not that like severe?
Did anything, what David's asking, Cyrus, is did anything come through where you literally just spat your water out and ran to the laptop to go, what the hell is this?
Well, I think almost every report, just by the nature of what the program is going to come in. It's very often it's like, oh, there's a critical report. Just because, I mean, the person who submits it, they can submit it at the severity level that they want. And that's the one that we pay the most for. And so if somebody finds something, typically they're going to say, oh, this one's really important. And also it's something that they spent a lot of time on. We haven't found anything of the sort come in like that in actuality, but I do often get emails popping up that are like critical report from the bug bounty. And so I do have that reaction every now and again, but it's not anything major. As for the actual content of them, I can't really speak to that just because of the nature of what it is. But once there is a period of time where they do become public once it's past a certain point in the cycle. That's something that we also report on. I think at the end of every month, if there's anything that comes through.
Yeah, because we've seen those in the monthly dev updates every now and then. Just haven't seen one as of recent. But then it's the nature of the stuff that you wouldn't now tell us, like, oh yeah, there's this or that going on.
Yeah, I mean, it could be either way, right? So could just be silent.
This line of code, that's the one you need to target. No. Okay. So, Cyrus, I want to step back a little bit as well and ask you. So, I've been seeing a lot of dev relations and stuff like that. And in general, I've seen very much an uptick in how we're communicating with our dev ecosystem, the kind of content we're putting out from documentation, from even just GitHub, the level of detail that is now going into it. So, I want to understand, like, have you noticed a bit of a difference, a change, or what are we doing differently in Icon when it comes to dev relations to make a difference?
Well, so we recently brought on a resource dedicated specifically towards improving this, things like documentation. A lot of what I deal with now is more on that side as well. And my goal, I mean, there's a lot to cover, and there's a lot that we want to do. The goal right now is to kind of just have it be, it's a win if somebody runs into an issue and they can either search for it or get a response in our community on what they're wondering about. And then erring on the side of we want as much information as possible to be searched for, and things that people can clearly find out. Again, it's still ongoing. It's going to take a little bit of time to really ramp up there. This is a fairly new thing that we're doing, but yeah, the expectation should be that there's going to be more improvements, more clarity on things, and so forth, with respect to developers who want to come in and use our blockchain.
Cool. Is this the icondev.io pages or environment that we're talking about, or is this a new destination for developers to go and have a look at icon documentation?
So we did route icondev.io to docs.icon.community. So that's the new source, but if you do type in icondev.io, it will still go to that same location. And for now, the focus is on just having the content. So we don't have anything in the works currently for like a total revamp of how it looks, level of interactivity, things like that. Is really just to focus on, do we have the information that people are going to look for, and can people search for it? And then if they don't find it, can they get that answer just within our community?
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. That's important because prior you'd have to, well, you still advise people to come into Discord and find the dev channels and ask questions there. I've done it. I went in asking questions about the Icon SDK that I was trying to get to work, and I got a lot of help actually. Just advice left, right. Yeah. Did I ever get it to work? I'm not sure. But maybe now with improved documentation, I would have gotten it.
And this is the point, isn't it? Like the goal is like, we have these channels, we know, and this is something I've realized. Like there's Telegram, there's Discord, and there's a lot of the validators and devs are in there, and everyone's trying to help each other. But one of the things I think Dev Relations, Cyrus, correct me if I'm wrong, we're trying to achieve here is like David's example, he should be able to go to the docs and step by step run through the process and have it up and running. Because I recall in the Icon Bridge days, you used to drill this in my head. It should literally be get in. They should be able to follow it step by step and have no issues and run what they need to. And that is the sign of success. So, and that's the end goal, isn't it? When we talk about documentation.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so if somebody were to, the idea is like, say, I try to run something right now, probably going to run into some trouble. If I want to figure out what the issue is, I can go to the documentation and I can search for it there just in the search bar for some keywords, see if it pops up, right? If it doesn't pop up, then I'll go to the Discord or the Telegram, search there. Then like kind of the goal here is every single time that happens, that somebody ends up in that end spot where they're asking the community. The great thing about our community is, everyone is very helpful, and we do even now at the foundation level have more resources towards that as well. We really want to only answer the same question once, right? Like for the first time. After that, it should just be something that everyone can search for. So this is a matter of like, tallying. Okay, if someone asks for something, like we just want to make note of it and make sure that that's something that's taken care of on the documentation level subsequently as well.
I love it.
Yeah. Developer tooling. This has been the mantra for the CPS for the past couple of cycles. We've as a node voting, we've said we're going to vote for developer tooling because that's important. Is there any developer tooling like arising that you know of? You know, we've some of it's been funded. I like to mention Drogon because it has the cool purple dragon on their website, but that's all I know about that one.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's kind of the main one. So Drogon is like a convenience tool where you can basically just deal with smart contract development without having to deal with the running a local chain environment. That's kind of abstracted out, and it's something that you don't really have to deal with as much. And that's at a point now in development where the team developing it is seeking feedback from the community, and they even have an incentive program for that feedback. I don't know the specific details of that program, but I believe it's something like I'll give between I think like between $25 and $100 to X number of people for whatever feedback they give. I would recommend following up. It is in the CPS, that proposal, because it's a third. It's not necessarily directly associated with the foundation, so I don't know the specifics of it. But it is great to see, like, kind of what we're trying to do on the dev relations side as well is bring in more high quality projects, not only to the foundation, but also externally funded. And I think there's been an uptick in the quality of projects coming into the CPS more recently. And we hope to see that continue. And we also hope to see, as you just mentioned, sort of on the validator side, more purposeful voting and kind of just declaring what it is that people are looking for in our ecosystem, even outside of the foundation, because we are a decentralized ecosystem, and it is important that we're sort of all aligned on what we believe is important.
Which at the moment is the general consensus has been developer tooling is important, because I think like 4 out of 5 proposals these days are teams doing technical stuff. Like, I read the proposals and I don't even understand half of it. So I turn to you guys to see if it's of high value. So I'm happy that you say that the quality seems to be on the up in that sense. Have you done any CPS proposals yourself as of recent, Cyrus?
I did. So I did put together one that was I was a contributor to that one, as well as it was sort of the idea was I wanted to get various members of our ecosystem who are doing development to put out just knowledge-based materials for what they're experts in. And so we put out, I think the proposal was for 6 articles. We put out 7. 2 of them are in draft still, though. And that's more so just because, like, the Java score one is around, I don't know how many, the draft that I saw was around like 40 pages or something. Dang. Like it was really large. And we originally I was like, this is going to be a blog. All of these are just going to be blogs, like informational blogs. But trying to figure out as it grew a little bit, like what's the best way to communicate this and so forth. It's most likely going to just end up in that same docs.icon.community section. And yeah, so that's one that I've been involved with. I do help out when various members send me proposals, sometimes for feedback prior to submitting them to the CPS. Sometimes people will do that. Sometimes, it's also good to post that to the forum, by the way. But yeah, I'm indirectly involved for the most part in these.
You know what I love? Just how humble Cyrus is. Like, in this particular thing, I've observed from the sidelines, and one of the qualities that I do really appreciate about Cyrus, and I always nag him and pick his brain about stuff, but he definitely identifies talent or enables anyone he's working with to kind of do more than what their task is. So the teams he was working with build this, but while building, he's established people who were very much tuned in and wanting to learn more, and then enabled them to go, well, you're doing this. Have you thought about CPS, where we can create a bunch of documentation, and at the same time you get to research a topic you love and you can publish articles with now. And this is what the CPS thing is he's done, and in the background helped and enabled a lot of these devs that have been building in our ecosystem to do. So yeah, Cyrus, you're very humble. We appreciate that about you. Now, follow-up question: where are the current published ones held? So I went looking for these articles and I couldn't find it in the Learn section. And you mentioned, so all the current published ones are in the Docs section now? They're not on the website?
No, I think that they should be where all of the blogs get posted.
They're
I don't know.
Yeah, they're on the Learn section.
Yeah, they are on the
three.
Learn section.
There's 3 on the Learn section.
There's
but
3 on
the 40 pages one. No, I haven't found that myself either.
Yeah, that one. Those are still in draft. So I guess the other 3, they're probably still waiting to be approved and pushed. But they're all on the GitHub. If you look at the GitHub, they're all pull requests right now. So I guess over the next month or so, you'll see more of them getting pushed to the Learn section. And then except for the Java score one, that one's gonna have to be sort of pushed in a different way, because that one's not really it's too much information for what it is. So that one might take a little while longer, but the rest of them are kind of just ready to go and ready to be added to the Learn section.
Cool.
And I guess one of the things that the ones that are ready to be added are waiting on is essentially for someone like me to pull them in through GitHub to be published on the website, because at the end of the day, anyone can do pull requests to icon.community and contribute to it in their own ways. Is that a fair way of stating what the icon.community website is as a resource for the community?
Yeah, exactly. And that was a lot of the intent behind this specific proposal, was to kind of just get more people contributing in different ways than they ordinarily would. So I mentioned that we had a 7th proposal, a 7th article push. That was specifically because one of the guys who had gone through and written an article and pushed it was like, oh, this was really fun. I enjoyed doing this, and he wanted to continue with sort of his own learnings, and he had written things out. And I just said, hey, if this is something that you found useful and you have these notes for, would you be open to adding this to our community site? Because as you mentioned, anyone can contribute, and it is a community-run site. And I think that's also another part of sort of what we want to do more of is kind of just have, like if you go to Ethereum's site, for example, it says all over, like, this is a community-run site. If you want to contribute, like, here's a pull request. Like, we have all these different ways to do it and so forth. I think that's sort of the direction that we want to shift towards, with not just this specific type of content, but with everything. Like, for example, if there's the developer who finds information, either a typo or something that they want to add to help other people, they should feel comfortable doing that, and hopefully like motivated to do so as well. That sort of is the lifeblood of an open source project. I think that the foundation, really the best that we can do is sort of incubate that and try to get more people involved and more people comfortable with that process, because it doesn't take very long. And because everything is open source, it's like our community really is built upon its members and how they contribute. So
yeah, and if a lot of people are interested in doing that, then a lot of people are carrying the load, I'd say. So it becomes, if like you just mentioned, if people spot a typo on the website and they actually are comfortable going in and putting in a pull request to change that, then the quality goes up and it's not a lot of work at the end of the day. If anyone's interested, it's icon.community/contribute. There's actually a page there that tells you how to do it and what you should be looking for when you want to contribute to that website.
Yeah. And one more point on this as well. So one thing that people can do is directly contribute. And another thing is they can like raise, I'd like to see X, or like I found an issue with Y or whatever. And then we can also just go in and do it ourselves. But it's something where the more people who are involved and motivated to be involved, the better. And I think that the CPS is such a great thing because it does bring that incentive, because if you have in a regular open source project, it's like, well, yeah, that's all fun and great and everything if people contribute, but at the end of the day, people are concerned about their own jobs, their livelihood, and the work that they have to do. And the primary motivation that people do have is financial in many cases. That's not always the case, but that is something that is more often than not the primary motivator. And what the CPS allows for is for people to think about, okay, if I wanted to contribute and this is something that either I need finances for or I'm more motivated by with finances, the CPS is great for that. And then it has the checks from the rest of the community saying whether or not we want to fund this and so forth. And I think that that's just a really cool thing. Like in all of these cases of how do you contribute, there is the side of finances. And I think that the CPS is just a really great concept and a great product to drive that forward as well.
Yeah. Yeah. With 130,000 is the treasury value at the moment.
Oh, it's up there. It's climbing. But I mean, we have a new round of proposals coming through, right? So expect that to get a little bit depleted.
Yeah,
I think it gets depleted every time.
Yeah, it's today's like the last day in the cycle, right? So it's gonna hit around zero after tomorrow, and then it'll reset. For anyone who doesn't know, it's 10% of the ICX inflation each month goes to that system,
and that's coded into the blockchain.
It's coded as a smart contract, and then the blockchain accepts it. So if the validators were to choose to say that this isn't a good system, or they wanted to change it, or if there was a breach or something, it could quickly be deactivated or changed. It's not a baked-in requirement of the system, but it is an addition that we currently have as part of our on-chain governance.
Yeah. Cool. Any other cool stuff happening in dev relation land? Any cool projects that you've been looking at or working with, or characters that you've met?
I think we've covered most of what I'm involved with. I think I don't know if you guys have had Eric on. I think he would be great to talk to about those more sides of those things. I try to stay more on the side of sort of helping out on the technical level and guidance and so forth. I'd say as far as cool projects coming in, well, there is the zero knowledge proofs project. That's a good example of the CPS again. Zero knowledge proofs are sort of a big deal right now in the crypto industry, and I believe will continue to be for the foreseeable future. And it's great to see that even outside of the foundation, that the Icon community is getting involved with that. I think that that's a really cool thing.
What's the because there's a Learn article right now on the icon.community website that dives into zero knowledge proofs and explains away what it is. I read it afterwards. I forgot it again, so I'm going to have to read it again. What is this CPS proposal proposing to do with this technology?
First, to back up for a second. So that article about zero knowledge proofs was part of that proposal I was mentioning that I was involved with for the purpose of getting people who to contribute in ways that they wouldn't ordinarily contribute. And it didn't necessarily lead to this specific follow-on. There is a portion of this follow-on that is specifically about writing more informational materials about zero knowledge proofs on top of the development side. But it was something, it's from the same group of people, the same developers. Basically, they were very interested in zero knowledge proofs while working on the bridge. I said, okay, well, we can't do anything about doing development on the bridge. There's not really much room for zero knowledge proofs here. Why don't you guys, in your own time, completely separately from this, if you want to, you can study it, write up some information about it. We even have the system to go through for funding. And then that has over time developed. Now that same group is doing development of zero knowledge proofs on the Icon blockchain. And what that's going to amount to is there's a lot of math that goes into enabling those sorts of proofs. It's basically all just math. And those operations require what's called pre-compiles. So basically, everything on a blockchain costs gas or fees, and certain types of operations, because of how much gas they cost, on the core chain level, you may want to say, hey, actually, whenever someone runs this set of operations, it's just going to cost a little less. Like hashing functions are a good example of that, and cryptographic curves. So this specific proposal is in order to implement the cryptographic curves associated with zero knowledge proofs. That was one. I think that's the first deliverable of the proposal. They also have a second, which I think is the actual running of zero knowledge proofs on smart contracts, and the third would be the informational materials, the Learn articles about it as well. So that's what they're doing with that project.
Would that require another governance vote from Icon validators to enable that the pre-compiles that you mentioned earlier, which would then get taxed a lower gas fee?
That's a great question. I honestly don't know the answer, and this is another one of those things where, like, what I would do right after this is search on the docs and say, hey, how do upgrades to our nodes work? And I don't think currently there is this information on there about what we would want to have. So because we don't have that, then I could ask that in the Discord. People from Icon Loop would answer, and I would make a note of it and say, okay, we're going to have this for everybody. I don't actually know. It's dependent on the degree of change, whether or not the nature of accepting upgrades to the node infrastructure. Yeah, that's something that I haven't been involved with, so I couldn't answer that for you.
I just love the way you covered it. Exactly, honing in on earlier. If you get a question that you don't know, the goal is to get it answered and put it in the documentation. And this is exactly what you said. And it's been a big missing piece of Icon, so it's very good to. Great question, David. I'm glad.
Thank you.
Going straight into the docs.
But wait, do I have to find the answer now and put it in the docs?
Well, you don't have to. You can if you want. That's the thing. So it's good to raise
on the list. Here we go.
Yeah, and that'll be something that will be there somewhat soon. I have a whole priority list in my head, but that has its place for sure. So
what's on the top of the priority list?
Yeah, so at the top of the priority list, so right now, well, we're going through on the documentation side. So we just went through basically like how to set up a local development environment, and also how to decentralize the nodes in your local environment. The next thing that we're doing, and we also did about wallets and accounts, and how to create a wallet, what accounts are, and sort of like some more technical details on those kinds of things. The next thing on the list is setting up how to run a relay for BTP. And so basically, if you go to the BTP repo right now, you can actually run very easily, by the way, in your local environment, you can run BTP, deploy smart contracts on both Icon and Binance Smart Chain in a local environment, and run a relay to pass messages between the two.
Is that the end-to-end demo?
That's the end-to-end demo. And there's a whole structure there. It's set up really nicely to sort of have, like, if you wanted to write a DApp, here's where you would write it, and so forth. So in that, though, that's from the perspective of if a developer were to want to write smart contracts or deploy this whole BTP setup to a network. We are getting to the point now where we are near running this on testnet and having people publicly use BTP. And as we get there, one of the things that we want to do and start thinking about is how do we incentivize users to come in and actually run a relay and try out passing messages among the official set of Icon smart contracts. So that's sort of what we're thinking about right now, and that's at the top of the priority list.
Cool. So this is when you're talking about officially getting more buy-in when we're at the testnet stage from external users. We're talking people who run dApps infrastructure-wise, so that they're actually utilizing BTP the way they would when it's released on mainnet. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's still something that we're thinking through. So I don't want to be saying like this is the set way that we're doing it.
Yeah.
But just as an example, one of the things that we're thinking about is like, you know, right now you can run locally, you can deploy all the smart contracts, right? Imagine you have an official, like, this is the foundation's smart contracts for BTP on testnet. And then if anyone wants to, they can run a relay and compete to pass messages between Icon and Binance Smart Chain on the respective testnets. And if they pass messages, then we can, you know, give them real ICX at some rate. That's just an example. And the idea behind that is, yeah, like you'd have more people running relays, passing messages, and paying attention to BTP in that way. We also have much more dedicated resources and involvement to dApp development before cross-chain utilizing this system. And that's another thing that we're also involved with.
Yep. No, that's awesome. I think, David, one thing I wanted to, like, I know we've just pushed the dev update, and you know, when we start talking testnet, everyone gets excited. Oh my God, it's here. So I just want to put a bit of perspective on it. A lot of the planning components are in play at the moment because we're close to testnet. But if you look also at the dev update, one of the key things that is happening with BTP at the moment is the teams have finished off running via local instances. So just like the end-to-end demo Cyrus described, they've tested integrations between Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, but again, locally connecting, running, like spinning up these chains and connecting, and everything works. Now the team is at the phase of spinning up a new testnet. So not one of the existing testnets, Berlin or Lisbon, spinning up a new testnet to then deploy that onto that testnet and then connect that testnet to Binance Smart Chain, Ethereum, and then do a round of testing there from in a very controlled environment to see everything is running just the way it did on local instances. So that is the first before we then transition to a Berlin deployment. And this is what the milestone board also shows. But I want to ensure there's context there, and you can see what you're getting out. And I'm taking away personally as well in my experience now being involved. This time there's a ton of planning and thought being put in at each of the stages, future state, what we can do to enable more robust testing, et cetera, before we hit mainnet, so that we don't hit the hurdles we hit the first time. Anyway, I'll stop there. But yeah, David, over to you.
I was just wondering, I just had one last question, and that's if with the right documentation, Cyrus, do you reckon two guys like Fez and myself could run an BTP relay on testnet?
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying is that's the next thing in our priority list in terms of documentation. So like that's in fact that's like a hurdle, that's like a requirement to incentivizing the testnet. So like right now it's what we're doing is just writing up, and it's pretty brief. It's with how the guys over at Icon Loop develop things. It's pretty easy to do if you have the right setup for it, and all the dependencies are installed and everything. But we just want to make sure that it's something that it's in the context of you're not trying to do development, you're not trying to run the entire system yourself locally. You're just trying to run a relay on testnet. And so that'll be pushed to our docs, hopefully like next week. So
cool.
I'll be keeping an eye out.
Just as we're chatting here, and since we're all at the same place, I think, Cyrus, we should start doing part of the dev updates, maybe covering a quick section. These are all the new areas of documentation that have been, like, people generally, like, if they're not paying attention and going and looking, they may not be realizing all this stuff's happening. So given so much attention is being faced, it'd probably be good to broadcast that a little bit more in the monthly update. So yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And to your point, I mean, that's why I'm saying, like, it's the focus is on whether or not people can search in the docs, not necessarily like, are they? I don't. Most people are not going to read through like the whole thing. Like, people really only read through it if they're running into trouble or if they're like actually that curious. But yeah, it's something that it's great to have awareness as we're pushing these things out. I think we've had announcements for at least some of these as well. But yeah, just recurring, like at the end of the month, we can add this as well.
Yeah. We'll chalk that in. I was going to say, who should all of us take notes for next time? Cool. Look, David, is there anything else we need to cover?
No, I've asked my questions and gotten good answers that I'm very happy with. Yeah. Yeah.
No, look, again, Cyrus, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. I think many people may not know this, but I've highlighted it. I do catch up with Cyrus. Now it's gone down to once a month. How dare you? It used to be once a week. But when we do... Yes, it was me. But the best part of it, we schedule a 30-minute catch-up. And then 3 hours later, it's like, oh, okay, the conversation keeps spiraling. But I learned so much. I pick his brain so much. So, and then at the end of it, I'm always like, man, we got to get you, do an interview. And he ends it with, this should have been recorded. This entire conversation was the interview. It's like, yeah. So we kind of had one of those conversations today. We planned a 30-minute chat, and it's close to 45 minutes, and we're purposely capping it. Otherwise, it could go for another few hours. But really appreciate it, Cyrus. We'll have you circle back after a couple of months, come back on, give us an update, and hopefully we're talking probably that time heavily about testnet incentivization and how it's all going.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds good. Happy to be on now or any other time.
Cool. David, Cyrus, take care.
Take care. Thanks. Good night. Good morning. And see you on the next one.